Hi everyone, let me record a quick video on how to get started with the Visual Engine. But before we get started, let's see what is the Visual Engine. So basically the Visual Engine is a set of shaders and tools which will help you unify any asset from the Unity Asset Store or almost any asset from the Unity Asset Store. And once the TV shaders are applied to the meshes, they will enable you to create effects like wind for any assets. Even if the original assets don't have any wind, it will enable you to have wind or to change seasons. And this includes adding raindrops, snow, you can control the size fade, interaction, and a bunch of other effects. So let's see how we can get started with the Visual Engine. So first of all, go to the learn scene and open it. And if we check this scene, you will see that there is a tree made with treat. There are some grass meshes and a rock and a barrel. Okay, so if we check the tree asset, it is using some standard Unity shaders. So when you buy some assets from the store, the classic way of switching shaders is to go here, switch the shader, and once you switch the shader, you will probably need to adjust a lot of settings. You will need to probably to reassign the textures if the textures are not named exactly as the textures from the Unity shaders. And instead of that, TV is including a prefab converter, which is doing all this job automatically. So in order to enable the prefab converter, go to Window, Boxophobic, the Visual Engine, and enable the asset converter. Okay, and once this asset is converted, the converter is saying that the Visual Engine Manager is missing from your scene. Okay, so simply click the button to create a manager, and it will create this manager. This manager is responsible to send a bunch of global data to the shaders. All right, so once this is set, we can save the scene, and let's select the tree, and with the asset converter, we need to choose a conversion preset to convert this asset. In this case, because the tree is made with treat, the asset converter is already choosing the preset for you. It says here that is auto-detected, which is located under Tools, Treat, and for the conversion option, we need to choose what type of prefab this is. So we will choose vegetation and simply hit convert. It is taking a few seconds, and once the asset is converted, now if we look at the shaders, instead of using the standard shaders, now it is using the Visual Engine shaders. Okay, and for the leaves, the general subsurface lit shader is applied. It is called general because it is general purpose shader. And if we go to the bark, it is assigning the general standard lit instead of subsurface lit. So what's the difference? The standard lit shader, it is more optimized and it is working in default shading. And the subsurface shader has this subsurface effect, which is basically the translucency of the leaves. So the light is penetrating the leaves. I think in this case, this subsurface effect is a bit too high, so we can lower it a bit, something like this. Okay, And what I want to do with this tree to color the leaves, let's say red. If you look at the shaders, there are a bunch of options you can change. We will only focus on a few of them today. Okay, so in order to change the color of the... before we do that, let's take a look at the textures applied over here. So the visual engine is using an albedo texture for the color, a normal texture, and a shader texture. I called it shader because it is taking care of the shading. So yeah, and this is packed. This is a packed texture, and in the red channel it is the metallic texture, the metallic mask. In the green channel it is the ambient occlusion mask. In the blue channel it is the leaves mask. In TV this is called the multi-mask because we will see a bit later we can use it for multiple purposes. Okay, and in the alpha we have the smoothness mask. And in order to color the leaves, we can simply go and set a color over here. So let's say I set it to red. Okay, but what's the problem when I set it to red? All the small branches from the same texture are also colored in red, and we don't want that. So what we can do, we can change the main color from constant to dual colors, and now we have a second color which we can change as we want. And what is controlling this mask for these two colors is this multi-mask over here, and we have a remap slider to control how much to remap that blue channel from the main shader texture. Okay, and the same mask is used in this case for coloring, and once we add some seasons we can control to only apply some coloring, for instance only on the leaves. The subsurface effect I showed earlier, it is using the same multi-mask, and you can see it here. If I set the multi-mask to 0 for the subsurface effect, now the subsurface scattering is penetrating the branches as well. So we will use this multi-mask for subsurface to only have the subsurface effect on the leaves and not on the branches. Alright, I will leave it something like this. And for instance, if actually, and let's look at how the converter works. So when you convert an asset, TV will save new meshes, materials, and a backup for the prefab, and it is also packing textures when needed. And if you ever want to go back to the original prefab, this is made to make the workflow undestructive. So you can always open the asset converter and revert the asset, and it is going back to the original shaders and meshes. So what I can do now, because I reverted it and I already changed some colors in there and some settings, what I can do, I can open the converter again, go back to the vegetation option, convert again, and since TV is finding that the materials used for this tree are already converted and it is finding them, it is asking if you want to keep the converted materials or to replace them. And in this case I want to keep the converted materials because I already changed a bunch of things and I want to keep them. So keep converted materials, and it is going back to what it was before. Okay, let's convert the grass. For the grass, I have grass A and grass B with unknown source. So when you convert some assets and you don't know the source, or those assets don't have a preset created for the vegetation and for the visual engine, what you can do is to go select the assets. I can select a bunch of them just to capture everything. And when I open the asset converter, only two prefabs are selected here. That's because the visual engine is only selecting the prefabs in the project, and it doesn't care about all the instances, because all these instances point to the same two prefabs. So I can convert them by selecting them over here, or I can select them in the project folder and it will be the same. And since the prefab has an unknown source, I will try to use the conversion preset, the automatic one. And in this case, I will choose the grass option. And the automatic presets will work for the Unity built-in shaders, actually for the standard Unity shaders, or if the asset you try to convert is using some naming, some standard naming convention in their shaders. Okay, so convert again. And now this grass is converted. On conversion, TV will add some mask to the meshes. For instance, for the grass doesn't have any kind of mask, but for the wind some masks are needed, and TV is automatically adding some mask to the meshes based on the conversion option we choose. So if you look at the grass, we can see, if we go to the advanced settings, we can see that it is adding some procedural height in the vertex colors, some random variation. This is used for motion. I will not go into much detail about this, but you need to know that TV, even if some assets don't have any masks for the wind, TV is adding them automatically. Okay, and with this grass, what I want to do is to go and make the grass a bit fluffier. So change the alpha a bit to make the grass a bit thicker. So this is controlled by the main alpha, and you can lower it a bit. If you go all the way down, the alpha is disappearing. If you set it something like this, now the grass is a bit thicker. If you want to control if a shader has alpha or not, it is controlled by the render clipping, and if I set it to off, the material doesn't have alpha at all and it will not be calculated. Okay, so this is useful for bark, for instance, where you don't want any alpha, so you need to set the alpha clipping to off, but in most cases this is automatically handled by the converter. So if you look at the leaves, the alpha clipping is on, and if we look at the bark, the alpha clipping is off. All right, and for the grass, in most cases, the grass looks better if the normals are set to point upwards. And TV is having this option on the material. We can simply search for it. We can search for normal. Okay, and over here we have the normal flattening. Okay, and I can set the normal flattening to 1. And now the normals are flattened, but the grass looks broken. That's because when you set the normals to be flat, to point up, we need to make sure the back faces are lit the same as the front faces. So we need to go to this render normals and set it to same. Okay. And what I want to do, because it is quite shiny, I want to lower the smoothness a bit. And this grass looks a bit floaty. It is not grounded at all. So I will go to the occlusion settings and enable the occlusion intensity. And I simply want to add some greenish color at the bottom. And the occlusion is using the vertex color green mask, and you can visualize what masks are added to the meshes by going to Window, Boxophobic, TV, and Scene Debugger. And it looks like I have a bug. It doesn't matter. Okay, I will pause and fix this real quick. Okay, nothing to see here. So when you open the Scene Debugger, you will see that it is showing the converted assets. It is showing, for instance, what I want to see in this case is the mesh attributes. And if I go to the mesh attributes, I can see what masks are added to each vertex color. So for the vertex red, TV is adding some variation to the meshes. In the green, it is used for ambient occlusion and for branch animation. The blue one is used for leaves animation. For the grass, it is the same because all the masks are basically the same. And in the alpha channel, it is adding a height mask. So for the grass, we use the vertex green channel over here for the occlusion, and we can remap this mask if we want. For instance, we can only add it at the bottom. Alright, and now our grass is converted, and we have only two assets to convert over here. And let's start with the rocks. I will move the rocks. I will duplicate one and move it out so we can see it a bit better. Alright. For the rocks, I will open the converter. Again, we don't have any... it is using the standard shader. And we can convert it with the automatic preset. If we look at the rock material, it is using an albedo map, a metallic map, a normal map. This is basically a metallic smoothness map, and it is having a height map. In TV, this height map can be used, for instance, for adding moss based on that height, or other effects. If we use a standard material from Unity, and if it is finding some height mask or occlusion mask or detail mask, it will automatically pack those masks together. So instead of using, I don't know how many, 7 textures, that actually 6 textures that Unity uses, TV is packing them and always using only 3 to save, actually to have better performance. So I will open the converter. It doesn't matter if I select the prefab or any of the child objects over here, it will be the same. I will choose the automatic preset. For the option, I will choose props and convert. Alright, and now if we look at the textures and the main textures, you can see that we have the main albedo, the normal, and the shader. So TV is packing those textures together, and now if I look at those textures, in the blue channel it is adding that height, which was, let's look at it again, let's revert. So this mask is not having anything in the blue channel, and we have the height as a separate texture. And when I convert, keep the converted materials, and now if I look at this texture, now it is packing that height in the blue channel, and we can use that mask. Let's add some moss, for instance, on this rock. But before adding the moss, let's look at some other settings. So you can control the albedo, for instance. You can control the normal map. You can control the metallic. In this case, it is not doing anything, because in the main shader, if you go to the red, this is black, so the metallic is black and it is not adding any metallic. We have the occlusion, which probably is white, yeah, so it doesn't do anything. We have the smoothness, and you can also remap most of these masks. You can remap them. Okay, so let's add some moss. To add moss, I will go to the layer settings and enable the layer, and this is adding a new set of textures, basically a new layer we can add on top of the existing textures. And for the layer albedo, I will search for moss, and we have the moss albedo. Let's set the normal, and let's set the shader texture. Okay, and this moss is the tiling is quite small, so what we can do is to increase the tiling of this texture. So for instance, let's go with 5 and 5. If you look at the detail, the moss is overriding the normal map and everything. So what we can do, we can blend these normals, because we want the detail of the underlying layer to be visible on this layer as well. Okay, and we can again, we can play with the smoothness, we can play with the settings over here, and let's break down one feature in TV. So in most features are set like this. We have some textures, we have some shading parameters over here, and at the bottom we have some masks we can use. So in this case, for instance, I can set this moss to be projected from the top. So in order to make this mask projected from the top, we need to go to the layer projection mask, set it to 1, and now we can control the we can remap this mask to control how sharp this effect is. And now if I rotate the mesh, you will see that the moss is staying on top. Probably a bit hard to see on this one, but it is staying on top. If you want to paint some vertex colors, for instance, you can set the projection again to 0 and use the mesh mask. And TV is already adding, if I open the debugger again, and if you go to the vertex alpha, TV is always adding to the meshes a height mask. So we can use that height mask, for instance. So for the layer mesh mask, I want to choose to use the vertex alpha, and now again I can remap this mask to make the effect sharper. When you combine multiple effects, for instance, I want to use projection and the mesh mask, what we can do, you can set these remap sliders to default and use this blend mask. This blend mask is the final mask, so you can remap this final mask over here. So what if I want to control this moss globally? In that case, all effects have the first mask of the effect of the feature is the global effect, and in this case we have this slider called layer coat mask, and this layer coat mask is using the value from the Visual Engine Manager. And if you go to the global coat data, we have this layer intensity, so I can control this effect globally if I want, if this layer coat mask is set to 1. If it's set to 0, then it will be always enabled, and it doesn't matter if I control this layer and intensity on the TV manager, because it doesn't do anything. Alright, now that we have everything converted, let's create an autumn scenery. Actually, let's go to the barrel and try to convert that as well. So if I select this barrel and open the converter and try to convert it, you will see that this barrel cannot be converted because it is not an actual prefab, and TV is only converting prefabs. And what we can do about it, you need to select the barrel, and let's go to the prefabs folder in the learn prefabs folder, and you need to drag it to the project to create it, to make it a prefab. And now that it is a prefab, now we can convert it. Okay, so again, I don't have any source for this. It is not part of some asset from the store that that TV is supporting. So I will try to use the automatic preset and set it to props and convert. Okay, and once this is converted, you will see that the shading is broken. So what happened? Let's look at the material. If we go to the material, you can see that only the albedo is transferred, and the normal is missing, and the shader texture is missing. Why is that? If I revert, this shader is using some unusual naming for the textures. So TV is not finding any normal, any occlusion texture to be used, and that's why it is not getting these textures. And what you can do about it, you can simply go and reassign the normal map, and we have this barrel shader texture over here, and you can assign it. You will see that nothing changed really, only the normal map is working. That's because we need to set the metallic to 1 and the smoothness to 1. So when an asset is not supported, it is still usable with the Visual Engine, but you might need to reassign the textures manually. Alright, so now this is also converted to the Visual Engine, and let's create an autumn scenery. So what I want to do in this scene, to color the vegetation globally, and to add some orangish color to everything. Alright, so what we need to do, instead of simply going to each material, so tinting in TV to be used globally, we need to use the tinting the tinting settings, and I can enable the tinting. All right, nothing is happening at the moment, but if I go to the TV manager, if we go actually to the leaves again, and if we look at the tinting settings, it is using the paint mask, tinting paint mask. So if we go to the TV manager, we need to go to the global paint data to enable the tinting effect, and I can set the tinting intensity to 1, and now it is coloring everything with the color I set over here. Okay, but instead of doing this for each prefab in the scene, what we can do, we can go and select, for instance, in this case, I will simply select the nature game object and go to Window, Boxophobic, the Visual Engine, and go to the Material Manager. And now the Material Manager is finding all the materials in the prefabs, and we can change the settings for all the materials at once. So if we look over here, by default the motion settings are selected. What we can do, choose all material settings, and now we can go to the tinting, enable the tinting for everything, and now everything is colored with the global paint data, which is this tinting effect. But if you look at the bark is not colored by the tinting. Why is that? If you go at the tinting, actually let me search for it. If you go at the tinting, you will see that this tinting is locked, and when some settings are locked, the material, if I open the Material Manager, okay, let's go to coloring settings over here. Actually, for in the seasons, we have the tinting. If I set the tinting over here, for the leaves material, it will set the tinting. You can see it over here. It will set the tinting, but for the bark, it is not setting it because it is locked. So TV is locking for bark, for rocks, for objects that should not have any global tinting. It is locking the property. So we can simply use the Material Manager, enable the tinting for specific materials, but at the same time skip some of the materials that doesn't need any tinting. If you want to enable the tinting, you can simply unlock this property. And now if I go back to the Material Manager, I probably need to reopen it. Let's see if it is setting the tinting for both of them. So this is the bark, this is the leaves, and it is setting the tinting for both. But the bark is still not coloring, and I will show you in a moment on the rocks why it is not coloring. So let me select one of the rocks, and since I have this moss over on top, I want to color the moss as well. So how we can do that? Again, I will go to the tinting, enable the tinting, and nothing is happening. Why is that? That's because the tinting is using this multi-mask. And if I go to the main settings, this multi-mask remap is both handles are set to 1, and if both handles are set to 1, that means this mask is black, so it doesn't do anything. And if I go to the layer settings, again this multi-mask is also set both handles to 1, so it is not doing anything. So what I need to do is to go and remap this slider, maybe set both handles to 0, and now only the moss is affected, but the rocks are not, because this multi-mask is set to 0. And if I remap this as well, now everything is colored. So that's the purpose of the multi-mask. That's why we have this multi-mask for each layer to control how the multi-mask is per layer, and then for the tinting, for instance, we can use that multi-mask to control how each layer is affected. Okay, so this color for let's set it for the grass as well. So for the grass, I will open the material manager, or I can simply go to the material and change the settings. And what I want to do over here is to use this Luma mask. This Luma mask is a grayscale mask which is computed from the albedo. And right now this Luma mask is set to 1, and that's why, because the bottom is darker and the tips of the grass are whiter. If we take this albedo color, we have whitish color, and if we make it grayscale, we have a whitish color over here and a darker color over here. So this tinting effect is affecting only the top and not the bottom. So we can use this multi-mask, or maybe remap it to control how much if the one of the features is using this Luma mask, which is the luminosity of the albedo texture. And in this case, I don't know, I will just set it to 0, and I can also play with this final remapping, and it is also using this multi-mask, and the grass is having a height mask for that multi-mask, so I can set it to 0 and maybe play only with this Luma mask and this final remapping over here. And I want to add some variation, and TV is adding variation in the mesh red channel. So I will enable this mesh mask and set it to red, and now I will remap this final mask over here, and as you can see, we have some variation in the grass as well. All right, and for the tree, I think I disabled it, so I will set it back to 1, and I need to go to remap that multi-mask a bit, because the branches are also coloring and I don't want that. So I will go to the surface settings, and under the main color, I will remap. Where is the multi-mask? I will deselect this bark, and now I only see the settings for the leaves, and I will remap this multi-mask a bit so the branches are not affected by this coloring. All right, Now that everything is set, I will change the color a bit because this is super yellow. Okay, maybe something like this. And I want to show you how you can control this effect locally. So now everything is controlled globally, right? What you can do is to create elements in TV which are decal-like objects, and they are used to control all these global effects locally. So I will go to right click in the hierarchy, boxophobic, TV, and create an element. And I will scale up this element. And by default, this element is a paint element. So on the materials, we have for the tinting, where is the tinting? Let's search for it. Okay, for the tinting, we use a paint mask, and the global data is called global paint data, and the element is called a paint element. So on the material, we need to enable the option to use the paint elements. So I will select all these meshes again. Okay, open the material manager, and for the tinting, I will go back to the season settings, and for the tinting, I want to use the paint elements. All right, and now they are using the paint feature, the paint elements. Actually, not the paint feature, because it is already using the paint feature. It is using paint elements. And now we can create these elements to color everything locally. For instance, I can duplicate it, go over here, change this element texture to a square texture, and set it to a bluish color, or maybe green. And in this way we can color everything locally if we want. If for instance I want to color this tree to be yellow but the grass to remain orange, what I can do, I can set this color to yellow, maybe something like this, and on the leaves material, under the tinting, actually not under the tinting, we have the global settings, and under the global settings we have this global paint layer, and at the moment it is using the default layer. And if I want to affect only one material, I can go and choose, for instance, for the paint layer, I want to choose layer 1. Nothing is happening at the moment because all these elements are also set to layer 1. So what I want to do is to go and set this one to layer 1, and I will deselect the default layer. Okay. And right now this element is only affecting the tree and not the grass. And if I want, right now you can see that this element is sampled in word space. So if I move it around, you can see how it is affecting the tree. What you can also do, under the global data, I can choose for the paint elements to be sampled at the pivot position of the tree, which is a single point instead of being sampled in word space. So I will set this global paint pivots to 1, and now this element is sampled for the entire tree at the pivot position. Okay, I will leave it like this, and let's add some snow to the scene. I will simply duplicate this element over here to add some variation to the grass. Okay, let's say this scene, and I will go to the second, this element, and make all the colors in TV are HDR, so you can go and change the intensity of them. All right, and all these elements are now static, so this scene is not changeable. For instance, if we go to the TV manager, if we go to this season control, nothing is happening. So on these elements, what I can do is to go and change the render mode from constant to seasons. And now this allows me to set a color for the winter, for the spring, for the summer, and for the autumn. And I will simply copy this color, go to seasons, and set it to autumn to be red. And for the winter I will keep it something like this, but maybe a bit desaturated. And for the spring and summer, I don't want any color, so I will simply set the alpha of the color to 0, and it will not affect anything. Okay, and actually I will delete this too. And same for the tree, for the yellow coloring, which is layer 1. I will copy this color, set it to seasons, and in the winter I want to keep it something yellow but something desaturated. For the spring, maybe I want to add some light greenish color, but I will set the alpha lower. In the summer I want to keep the original color, so I will set the alpha to 0. And in the autumn I want to use this yellow color. Okay, and now if I move this slider, and for the global color, I will set this tinting to 0, and what the elements do is to simply override this global color and intensity set over here. So now in the summer nothing is happening, it is using the default colors. In the spring nothing is happening, maybe this tree is getting some greenish color which is not super visible. But if I go to the autumn color, settings, now these elements over here are used because they are set to seasons for the mode. So let's do something like this, and this is now working. So if I go to winter, those colors get a bit desaturated as we set it over here. And let's enable some snow on these props. So I will select everything again. I open the material manager, and the snow in TV is called overlay because it can be used for snow or for sand, for desert scenery. And I will go to the overlay, set the intensity to 1. All right. We can set this Atmo mask. It is called Atmo from atmospheric. And I want to use Atmo elements to control, maybe to control the snow locally. Okay, I will enable this. And now I can go to the global settings, and under the, again, each feature in TV is using this how to call it, this keyword for the global effects. So the layer is using the coat mask and coat elements, and if you go to the visual engine under the global settings, we have this coat data which is using this coat intensity, and again on the material we have this coat layer and coat pivots which is using the pivots. It is called pivots because TV can have multiple pivots for the same mesh, and to sample the those elements at the pivots level or in workspace. So for the overlay we use this Atmo mask, and if I go to the, so for all these objects over here I enabled, oops, I enabled the overlay effect, and it is using this Atmo mask and it is using Atmo elements. But if I go to the TV manager, this Atmo overlay intensity is set to 0, so we need to set it to 1, and now everything is covered in snow, but maybe a bit too much. Let's go to the overlay effect and set some masks to look a bit better. So for this, for the rocks, for instance, I go to the overlay, and what I want to do, maybe to use this Luma mask again, which is that mask which is generated from the albedo texture, that luminosity mask, and maybe remap it a bit so we have some more detail over here. Or maybe I want to add some textures, some snow textures to the rocks. So I will enable this masks effect, and now we can set an albedo and a normal map. And I have this normal map over here, and for the albedo I will not use any albedo because the snow is white, so what's the point of adding a new texture for the snow? And this snow at the moment is sampled in workspace, and in TV the sampling is called planar. So if I move the snow around, the rock around, that snow is mapped in workspace. But you can see some stretching on these rocks over here. So what I can do is to set it to triplanar, for instance, and now the snow is mapped in the workspace using triplanar mapping. If I want to change the UVs, you can scale the UVs using the UV value, and you can use tiling and offset, or you can use scale and offset. And scale and offset is the same that the Unity terrain is using. If you increase the number, the scale will be bigger. If you go with tiling, then with the number increased, the tiling will be smaller. So I will use scale and offset and set it maybe something like this. Okay, and again, I think I will use the projection mask to only add snow on top. All right, and now if I play with this intensity, you can see that this effect is fading out, but is not simply fading out, it is well, I would say it is eroding, or it is eaten up, and that's because the overlay blend mask is remapped. If I set this blending mask to something like this, actually to 0 and 1, then this intensity is simply fading in and out. So I will remap it a bit because I want this effect to work like before, so something like this. All right, let's change the masks for the grass as well. For this one, I will use the Luma mask. Projection mask, we don't need it at all. I will use the Luma mask and remap it a bit because I only want snow on top, but I will reduce this mask a bit. And I want to again to add some variation over here, and I will not add variation from the material. I will add variation with an element. So again, we have the intensity. This is fading out. Maybe it looks a bit bad, so I will change the Luma mask a bit, and let's see how it looks with transition. I think it is a bit too much, so maybe add some more Luma mask. Okay, so instead of using this Luma mask, I will simply use the mesh mask from the alpha channel, which is the height. Okay, and I will remap it a bit more. Or maybe use the Luma mask and remap it. This is happening because the occlusion is way too dark compared to the other part of the grass. So I will go back to the surface settings. Actually, for the coloring, and I will remap this a bit so we have a better effect over here. Okay, back to the seasons, back to the overlay, and I want this overlay to be a bit smoother, something like this. Okay, everything is looking pretty good. For this one, I can again enable the maps, set it to scale and scale the grass a bit. I will set the normal map to be a bit smoother, and now those lines over there are covered nicely with snow. Okay, and again, since we enable the for the overlay to use the Atmo elements, instead of using this global value over here, I will set it to 0. I will create a new element. Okay, scale it up. I will scale it to include the entire scene. And for this one, if I want to use another type of elements, I need to simply go to the shader, go to Boxophobic, the visual engine, elements, and I will choose the Atmo overlay element. And I can remove this texture over here. So right now, this is set to 1. I can control the snow on the scene. What I want to do, again, set the render mode to seasons, and in the winter I want full overlay, and spring, summer and autumn to 0. And now if I move the slider again, we go from summer, which doesn't have any global effect, to autumn, to winter, and everything is dynamic. Alright, why we do see this square over here is because this material for the ground is having the overlay enabled, so I will simply disable it for this one. Or what I can do is for this element, it is always a good idea to rename them. I will simply choose a noisier texture and set it like this. And if we want to create some noise in the scene with the snow, for instance, let's add some more rocks over here so we can see the effect better. Okay, I can create a new element or duplicate this one. I will simply duplicate this overlay element, and I will choose a noise over here, a noise texture, and I don't want to use the, so for these elements, the red channel of the texture, this one, is used as element value, and the alpha channel is used as element intensity. I will cover all this in some proper videos, because this one is made as just as a quick start, and I just realized it is over 1 hour long already. So I will need to break down everything and make some proper videos. But I will set this element value to 0, and I can remap this this alpha a bit, and now we have this effect over here. And what I want to do is to set it to constant, and I can set the value of the element. So it is setting the overlay intensity to 0 only in these parts that are visible over here, set by this alpha texture. And if we look over here, right now everything is disappearing because the overlay element, the height is important, and the elements are rendered like Photoshop layers, where the layer on top is rendered over the layer which is in the bottom. So what I need to do is to set this layer at the bottom, and this one with the noise on top. And right now we have this noise on the entire environment, but I will set this intensity to something lower. The effect is quite broken for this ground, because this ground is not having any textures, so there is no data, and this remapping over here doesn't make much sense when we don't have any masks assigned. So we can remap it a bit, and it is remapping this global mask as well. All right, and now we have some noise on this entire environment. And again, I can play with these effects globally. All right, and I think I will stop right here and create some proper videos quite soon, I hope, with everything broken down in smaller bits, and everything is explained properly. And yeah, that's it. So bye bye.